All right, we are live. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Well, sorry. We're off to I feel like I need to take a deep breath. My mic is falling down and Sarah was fixing her curtain right when I hit.
I was just, because the sun was coming through and it didn't look very good.
So I don't know. I think we need to regroup. So hello and welcome in. My mic is still falling down, but I did not put it on tight enough. I am Sarah, founder of the Sisters Enchanted, and I am joined by Sarah Milne, the program director here at the Sisters Enchanted. And we are chatting today with you about, what are we talking about? We're talking about all the things happening in the sky right now, or coming up rather.
Yeah.
So we got Mercury going retrograde, and more importantly, or maybe not more importantly, but importantly, some things happening with the North Node, South Node, the lunar nodes, and eclipses, and what all of that has to do with us, what we can expect. So let me, for those of you who might be new, we haven't done like a live stream like this in a while. So let me just kind of reintroduce us. If you're new here, just finding this, as I said, I'm Sarah, the founder of the Sisters Enchanted, and we've been bringing classes online since 2016 to thousands of people. And Sarah here, who's joining us, we're Sarah squared, we call us, the two Sarahs. Sarah Milne here. She's our program director, which means that she teaches, she makes sure that our curriculum is at a really great standard. And Sarah's also an astrologer and one of our astrology teachers. So you can see her in all of the classes. And I'll mention really quick as we're getting started here, we are having a special open enrollment on our programs through tomorrow. So if you've not seen that, or if you have any questions, shoot us a message and we'll help you out with that. All right. So Sarah, where should we start? Should we give like a little, because Mercury retrograde is tomorrow. Should we give a little, and we're in the shadow, like a little, what is Mercury retrograde?
Yeah. So Mercury retrograde, it's one of every planet goes retrograde, and we only ever think about it in popular kind of media. We always ever talk about Mercury retrograde. Every planet goes retrograde when it appears from the angle that we're looking at it from the Earth to be going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it isn't actually, it doesn't just stop and go backwards. So all about perception, and I think that's a really cool way of looking at retrogrades. It's all about perception because that's what it perceives to be doing.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's a really good, I don't fear retrogrades, although Mercury retrograde does seem to have some strange kind of like impact on technology and bits and pieces, which it generally does, because although it's a perception, it does have that kind of like effect on electromagnetism and so forth when it does this. But it's a really good time for us to think, okay, Mercury is our planet of thought and communication and perception. It's going retrograde in Aquarius, which is that sign all about thinking about things in new ways and thinking about things that in a new way that could be better for the benefit of society and of the group. Mm-hmm. So Mercury retrograde, how can I look at things with a different perspective and change the way I'm thinking about some things that are getting in the way of myself, or changing the way I'm perceiving? Is there anything that I am hurt by because I feel like the people are communicating certain things, but actually it's my perception of these things? All those kind of really good time to look at all those kind of things, rather than thinking, oh no, it's Mercury retrograde, everything's going to go wrong.
Yeah. Well, Mercury, it's like thought. If you're in communication, if you're a tarot reader, the suit of swords, you think about how sorry, I'm trying to fix my mic. I moved it to somewhere else to test something and I did not put it back very well. That's what I'm doing over here. If you think about the suit of swords in tarot though, and how that's all like your thoughts, and with Mercury retrograde, any thoughts that you've left unchecked, any like mental clutter that you've left unchecked, it can really show itself to you during Mercury retrograde, which is why I think, the Mercury retrograde period, like everybody talks about it. It's in popular magazines, articles. And I think Mercury goes retrograde for a few periods of time in 1 year. So it happens frequently. So, the non-astrologer can really follow along with that. But two, I think people just, because there's this idea that communication technology, travel is
Yeah.
impacted negatively. But really, it's any mind clutter or like mind trash, as I like to call it, that you've left sitting there that's been unaddressed. Areas of your life might go awry, like waving that red flag, like, hey, you've been ignoring me. And now I'm going to show you what happens when you ignore me.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And if we don't address these things, then they come back to us in future retrogrades in that same sign. Because obviously Mercury is retrograding, like you say, 3 times a year. So it's going to be, there'll be another Mercury retrograde in Aquarius at another time, and it will come back and bite you again then. Like, you didn't learn the lesson this time round. So here we go.
Yeah.
When things go haywire, I think, well, okay, this has gone a bit haywire. Why? What lesson did I not learn before?
Exactly. Yeah. And with Aquarius, I mean, that's like a rebellious sign. So like really finding yourself, if you find yourself resistant to change and really just like even like rebelling against the stuff that you need to do, if you know that there's changes you need to make and you've just really been resisting them, or like finding reasons to resist, justifying your resistance, this would be like one of those, like a blender with no top on it. That's what could happen with your Mercury retrograde. All those things that you've been kind of sort of rebelling against or resisting against,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But as Sarah mentioned, all the planets do go retrograde. Like Venus, I think Venus is retrograde right now, I think, or was recently. Yeah. Retrograde right now. Yeah, Sarah's the astrologer. I just
we came into the year with Venus in retrograde, so yeah,
everything goes retrograde.
Challenges in beauty and love and desire. That's
yeah. But Mercury, like I said, everyone talks about Mercury retrograde, and I think it is because it's just that it happens frequently, and it's more of a discussion piece for sure, but also just in our lives, really the thoughts that we don't declutter come up for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it does kind of impact us. And Mercury's a quick planet, so it impacts us sort of. Some of the other retrogrades may be more subtle. Mercury's like boom, bam, Mercury's retrograde.
Yeah. I forgot to mention in the comments, you'll see a bunch of folks helping you out today, signing their name with Team TSE. That's the Sisters Enchanted. So if you see anybody commenting as Team TSE, then they work here with us and can help you out with any questions that you might have. And of course, if somebody answers as the Sisters Enchanted, that is us, or that is one of our team members. All right. So let's get to the juicy part of this conversation, Sarah. This is why we've gathered you all here today.
Yes. Yeah. The lunar node. So the lunar node axis is shifting on the 18th of January, and it shifts once every 18 months or so. So this is kind of cool. So we've had this axis in Sagittarius and Gemini, and it's shifting into Scorpio and Taurus. Now, I have had, and Sarah, both of us have a lot of Sagittarius in our charts, and it has this I'm in a completely different place now from that season. So this is a time of change of perspective, change of cosmic energy. So the lunar nodes in our natal chart, they kind of show us the path of our purpose in life. So we kind of like have talents in the south node that we might kind of fall back on too much, and we want to move the challenge for us is to move into things in the north node. That's our kind of like our purpose, and the things that we might feel uncomfortable with, we might kind of like feel like it's out of our comfort zone. Like, say, for example, if your north node is in Aries, you might think, well, I'm not very assertive. That's kind of like, I prefer to be back down there and just kind of, I don't want to assert myself into the world, but that's your challenge. That's your hurdle to get over, your lessons to learn how to assert yourself more. So we all have our lunar nodes in our natal chart, but like everything else, they transit. So the transitioning lunar nodes are moving into North Node Taurus and South Node Scorpio, and where they will stay for the next 18 months.
So, all right, I'm just going to recap for all of the people who are like, what on earth are we talking about here? Yes. So in your birth chart, when you're born, everything's in a position in the sky when you're born. And an astrologer can look at that, right, and tell you things about yourself. And the north node and the south node on your chart will have a placement, and the south is kind of like past stuff, karmic stuff, kind of where you started, and the north is where you're going.
Where you're going,
but
yeah,
the
and
north can be a challenge because you've got to grow to that.
Grow to it, exactly. And it's just to explain what they are where the suns and the moon's ellipse cross each other. And so where that ellipse crossed at the time you're born, so they're not like things, objects, they are a crossing of a pathway. And that is why the eclipse seasons align up to that nodal transit nodal pathway, because the sun and the moon are moving around that ellipse.
So I'm going to ask some questions, and you can answer them for us. So for the nodes right now, north node is moving into Taurus, south node Scorpio. So they do go in pairs. They're always the opposites, always. That doesn't, so like Gemini, Sagittarius. If you're a north node Gemini, you're going to be a south node Sagittarius, and vice versa. So if anyone listening is not familiar, there's the 12 signs, and they each have the oppositions. So they will always be opposite in your birth chart or your natal chart. Those are interchangeable words there. So anybody who has a north node Taurus, south node Scorpio, this is aligning up for you in that. And you can check that on your birth chart. Additionally, Sarah, if somebody were to look at their chart and just see what they have in Taurus or what they have in Scorpio, if it's not their nodes, what might they look for there? Like, how might they look for an impact?
My north node, my Taurus is in my house 10. And Scorpio is house 4. So Scorpio is my house of kind of like psychological roots and my life as I was growing up, and Taurus is kind of that greatest achievement and careers and like me out there in society and what I want everyone to kind of feel like I'd achieved in the end of my lifetime, so to speak. So there, it could, for me, it's going to be, well, Scorpio, in what way are things in my childhood perhaps holding me back? Are there any things that I'm not using, things that talents and gifts and things that I was using and learned at that time that I'm not using now in that kind of house 10 environment? So I'm going to get that kind of challenges and changes, because like the eclipses are like time markers. They kind of like they kind of like show us things that need to be addressed and things like that. And and that's going to be lining up to that. That's how we're going to learn. When we have the nodes in those certain positions, we've got lessons to learn, and the eclipses are there to kind of like give us that little time tick to help us to learn those lessons.
So can you tell us more about the eclipses? Do we have like what's the first one?
The first one is a solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse in Taurus on April 30th. So that's when this kind of, so we're going to settle into this new energy before we start getting the eclipses. And then May the 16th is a full lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Then October 25th is partial solar in Scorpio. November 8th is the full lunar in Taurus. So an eclipse, the way to really think about it is like an eclipse it makes that kind of moon more potent. So an eclipse new moon is really kind of like, okay, so I've got to set an intention that's going to be really big and really important, and this intention could for this lunar month could really bring big changes. And then when you have the eclipse full moon, it's really kind of like, well, you know, I've got some really, really deep shadow work to be done here. And then we've got Scorpio in here, so this is going to be really deep. Really.
Our anybody here who's in our holistic witchery program and then Enchanted Journey, I feel like our Halloween class-a-thon in November, we've got some themes brewing, it sounds like.
we have. So just want to tie the solar eclipse the solar eclipse is similar to having a really strong and potent new moon. So make intentions that really count during that time. And the lunar eclipse are like really strong and potent full moons.
So, and actually just looking at the dates you gave me, the same, because we're hosting a Beltane event in May also.
Yeah, I know.
With that
Cool,
same
isn't it?
weekend.
How cool is it? I know.
I know. How did that line up for us this year?
Yeah, I know, it's so cool.
All right. So let's recap here. Now I'm going to give you like a little non-astrologer lesson in astrology, and we'll apply what Sarah has taught us so that everybody knows what to look for this year. So the nodes are shifting, the lunar nodes, to North Node Taurus, South Node Scorpio. Now you don't need to know anything about astrology to, you don't need to like understand that fully. What you need to know though is that impacts eclipse season. And so we have in April, May, October, November, eclipses, partial or full, solar, lunar, happening. And what that tells us is those eclipses, when we have eclipses, that just is an enhanced focus. It's an enhanced power of that moment. So it's an enhanced new moon, an enhanced full moon. We're like doubling down. There's more energy there. And it's like a deeper thing for us to look at. And we might have to dig deeper to see because of the eclipse. Like we might have to really pull back layers to see what it is we're setting intentions for, what we're releasing, what we're manifesting. But doing that deep work can result like 10 times over for us, this big massive result because we've done that work. And this year, these are going to happen in Scorpio and Taurus. So for you, whether or not you understand astrology, if you have a birth chart, if you can look it up and see where Scorpio lives on your birth chart, where Taurus lives, you're going to know what's being impacted for you this year.
Yeah, absolutely. We should say a little bit, those that don't know what we mean by Taurus and Scorpio. Like Taurus is super earthy, super practical. It's like take small, grounded, steady steps to like get to your goals and like all this kind of, and that's where our souls are kind of wanted. That's the pull. That's our pull during this 18 months, to be kind of grounded, earthy, practical, take small steps to like to reach our goals and our achievements. And then Scorpio is that really kind of mystic, esoteric, deep kind of like big transformations. Like Taurus is taking little steps and like towards the goal. Scorpio is that deep like new life level transformation. So we're kind of going to feel this pull between that really practical and really intuitive. Scorpio is super intuitive. Taurus is super practical and grounded. So, and we're going to feel a pull between those things. And really, at the end of the day, our biggest goal in this 18-month period is to learn how to find a balance between those two things. It's not about kind of, because we've all got to be super Taurus and leave all Scorpio behind. The biggest goal is to find that balance between the intuitive and the esoteric and the mystical and the transformational and the practical and steady.
Yeah, and we're coming off of Sagittarius Gemini, right? You mentioned. We're leaving. What's the energy we're leaving behind? Obviously, I know I have a Sagittarius stellium. Sarah here. We have this. I'll sidetrack a little bit to tell you a little bit about Team Sisters Enchanted. But basically, you either have to have heavy Sagittarius or heavy Scorpio to work here. And that was never like, clearly we don't plan that. But everybody who works here is either heavy Sagittarius or heavy Scorpio. And I don't know what it is, but clearly next time we hire, I need to be like, so we need somebody who's heavy, like Capricorn. Or heavy.
I know. It's
because that is how it is. But so what's this? So what did we just experience with Gemini Sagittarius that we're leaving behind?
Well, it was kind of like Gemini Sagittarius. Like Gemini is. So my son is calling me over and over again at the moment. Literally over and over again. He is neurotypical, so okay. So so Gemini and Sagittarius. Gemini is kind of breadth. Gemini wants to experience lots and lots and lots of things in the world. Gemini wants breadth of experience. Gemini wants to experience everything, and it's going to communicate with lots of people, because it's like, well, if I can't experience it, then I'll share your experiences. And if I want to compare my experience with yours, so it's kind of like, oh, isn't the sea beautiful today? What do you think is beautiful? What can you see? What did you experience about that? It wants to just know everything, all about the mysteries of the earth. So, and it wants lots and lots of experiences, and it might be quite fickle. It doesn't stay too long. It's like, yeah, experience that. Okay, next thing. Whereas Sagittarius goes deep. When Sagittarius experience, it wants to experience the real depth of experience. Like, I've got lots of Sagittarius in my chart, and my bookshelf is heavy because everything I get into, I want to know everything, read everything, absorb everything. And then both Gemini and Sagittarius want to share their experiences. Sagittarius wants to share like depth and really take you on a deep experience with them, whereas Gemini just wants to tell you things and share things. So the Gemini is almost like the meme or the Twitter or the tweet or the Instagram, and Sagittarius is the deep book.
Yeah.
And the Sagittarius is kind of, it wants to experience the heavens and see everything. So it's kind of like, so we would have come out of this kind of like experiencing kind of lots of like breadth versus depth, really, in that kind of, I think certainly for me, it feels like that. But then you also then are going to look at where those things are in your chart. Like, where is Gemini and Sagittarius in your own natal chart, birth chart, as to where that is kind of like happening for you. So, you know.
So we're like, so this experience and this like sharing, we're moving from there into this like transformation. What are we transforming life into? Like the esoteric versus the like practical, and balancing that. So the last 18 months, we've had this energy of information, which I think is probably accurate for all of us. I mean, anybody living in this world right now, you can't put on a news channel, you can't go on social media without 10 different conflicting stories about this one thing, like one thing that happened, and there's 10 different conflicting pieces of information.
Absolutely.
And so we're moving from there to like this balance of like spiritual, esoteric growth to practical matters of finance, life, home. Like, what does it actually look like?
Well, I think that shift is really kind of like, for us all in the world, that's quite an important shift, because we have gone through this 18 months of that kind of like, you know, sharing lots of things. Like, what do you think? What do you think? And how many times we had that conversation? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What's true? What's true? I don't know. What do you think? Which is so Gemini. And then at the same time, we've all had this real, like during lockdown, and a lot of us have readjusted our, like, had this deep kind of, right, so I'm thinking deep now. What deep experience do I want? So we have had this real Gemini Sagittarius pull, and now a lot of us have made big changes in our lives as a result of that. And so you can have a look and see where you have Sagittarius and Gemini, and see whether you've made any big changes in those areas of life. And then now it's that kind of, okay, so it's going to be a pull between the deep transformations and like coming out into a new kind of like post-pandemic, touch wood, deep transformations that we've had in Scorpio is going to be like, so let's just think about the deep transformations, the deep like new life. And Taurus is going to be that, like, okay, so let's just regroup practically. What are we going to get on? So I think that's really important. What you just said, it's going to be that balance between the deep transformation and taking a deep breath and like, right, okay, there's practical things to be getting on with now.
And you know what? I think that makes a lot of sense when we look at astrology is so interesting to me, because you have your experiences, and then when somebody you don't know who's a skilled astrologer starts telling you about things that have happened, and you're like, oh my gosh, have you been spying on me my whole life? Because that makes so much sense. And we're seeing this, though, what we just described, and then just as an like anecdotal thing that we're seeing is people leaving their jobs in droves. Like, what are we calling it? The Great Resignation. People are for self-employment, for gig economy, for freelance work, for other offers, for flex time opportunities with other companies, just people making big life changes. But we've had all of this like communication stuff, and now people are making these big changes in their lives. And that comes from like this very Scorpio, how do I want to feel? What do I believe within myself? What do I want to feel like every day on like a spiritual, personal level? And then we have to move, though, towards Taurus, because we can make these big changes, but eventually you still have to know, okay, well, what days am I actually working? How much money do I need for retirement? Like, we still need to know all of this.
So
now it's that shift.
It is. And Taurus is about gathering and using our resources, our earthly resources. I mean, when you think about the environment and things like that right now, that's a really good Taurus kind of like, how much do we value the earthly resources that we have? What are we going to do, to protect those? There's so much that's going on in the world that relates to this Taurus Scorpio. It's going to be an interesting 18 months.
Yeah. And again, for anybody who came in a little later, we also have a Taurus eclipse in April, Scorpio in May and October, and then another Taurus in November. So what we're talking about with these Taurus North nodes, Scorpio South node, that impacts the eclipses. So we're all going to experience this. And to understand this, how it's going to impact you the most, it's helpful. You don't have to do this. It is helpful if you can pull up a free birth chart online. We love Astro, ASTRO, astro.com. You put in all your birth information and just look and see where is Taurus in your birth chart, where is Scorpio, and that will help you understand what's going to be impacted for you. Now, I'll raise my hand up. My North node is Taurus and my South node is Scorpio. So, if y'all are like insiders here at the Sisters Enchanted, and Sarah here knows, the last 18 months for me, I have not, I just wish that they would stay in the past and I never have to see them again.
It's over now.
So my Sagittarius stellium with all this Sagittarius, and what's my Chiron is in Gemini also. Chiron's the wounded healer, what you can heal in others, but not yourself. So maybe in hindsight, that's why my last 18 months have been the way that they have been. And I'm looking forward to this shift because that lines up for me. It's really interesting. I was looking back, and when you look at your node's placement, the opposite. So I'm a North node Taurus, South node Scorpio. The last time Scorpio was North and Taurus was South was almost to the day, that time frame, when I worked for the last company I worked for before self-employment. And it was a small business, and everything I learned there in that time was what set me up to be able to do all the things that I do now. And when I learned that, my mind was just blown because those were like the opposite node placements for me. And that was like an unexpected time of life. I didn't ever think I'd be doing what I was doing. And that like reversal or that hard stop in my course of life set me up for everything else that has happened.
So now it's just like little steps, just enjoy the peace and the kind of Taurus energy, little step.
I remind myself of that when I'm panicking later.
Absolutely.
Anyway, all right. So Mercury is going retrograde tomorrow in Aquarius, and just watch out for those things that you've been resisting, because it will come right back to you during Mercury retrograde, especially in Aquarius.
Absolutely. I would say as well about these eclipse season that starts on April 30th and ends in November 8th, and you've got then May 16th, October 25th. It's quite good to plan out if there's something that you want to change, particularly in those two areas of the chart that are Taurus and Scorpio. You can use those eclipses. You can plan things across those eclipses as well. So you can plan intentions and then also shadow work and things that you're going to do to sort of get to that goal. So that's a really good way of using eclipses, is to like make yourself an eclipse plan and steer the change rather than have it.
I feel like I need to make a plan. My Scorpio is in my 5th house with Mars and Pluto.
Whoa, deep.
That's my South node, with Mars and Pluto in the 5th house. And then, so what's that? My 11th house is Taurus, but I don't think there's anything else in there. I think it's just my North node. So, but I think I got a lot of stuff I got to try to move away from. Not so easy. Anyway. All right. Any last thoughts, Sarah? I think you hit it all.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to bring some astrology back to our podcast at the end of February. We're on a little bit of a replay break here while we kind of do some house cleaning on the podcast. So y'all can keep your keep an ear out for when that comes back again towards the end of February. And if you are interested in learning more about astrology, we do have a full certification program, and we have a limited enrollment on our holistic witchery program and the bundle program with astrology through tomorrow, actually. So you can find that at holisticwitchery.com. All the information's right there, or you can message us here on Facebook or Instagram, or send us an email, and we can answer any questions for you there. And I see Maria sharing true node is Taurus. Yes.
That's the node. Yeah.
This is your you're lined up right now, Maria.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens with like age groups. So if you were born in a specific time period, then because it's at 18 months. So anybody's got a baby on deck that's born like next week is going to be a Taurus, North Node, Scorpio.
Or for the next 18 months.
Yeah,
even.
for the next 18 months. So yeah, so if you're just, I don't know, that's the truth. That's the case. All right then. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. If you ever have any questions, you know where to find us. Ask away. We're here to help. Happy to help. And yeah. I hope you have a good day. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.